It's Riyadh season. The UFC's flying all the way back to the Middle East in Saudi, where the gender bender looks to put a halt to his losing streak, taking on the French-Russian in Imavov. The co-main event, Shara Bullet versus MVP. Probably my favorite fight to start the year. I think it's a great matchup, a striker's delight. I'm interested to see how it plays out. My favorite part about the Riyadh season, all the Saudi investment in the UFC, is that when we go to Saudi, we better have a good card. But when it's Noche UFC and we're at the Sphere, just make the main event okay, and then the rest of the card can be trash. This card ain't trash. This card is one of the better fight nights we'll see all year. Obviously, Izzy has only been in championship fights for God knows how long, and now he's on a main event of a fight night. This ain't even a pay-per-view. It's going to be free to you if you're an ESPN Plus subscriber, which I am. I really just plugged ESPN Plus. What am I doing? All right, I'm going to go through every single fight. I'll give you the early picks. We don't have a UFC card this weekend, so I thought early picks, get it out early. Now, I usually do these on Sunday. I'm just going to do it on Wednesday. Why not? But before we get into this card, let's talk about UFC 311, which was this previous card. The bets were positive. We were positive. Jamal Hill coming out with the double knee sleeves. Terrible, terrible look. If I knew that, I would have cashed out. Or at least I would have bet on. I'm not going to cash out when I already gave out my bets to the premium members. But we made money on the parlays, the props, the money lines, the over, under on rounds. But the DFS was up 2 units as well. So in total, we were positive just under 2.5 units. Another winning week for the Home Fight Picks premium members. That's 2 winning weeks to start the year. 4 winning weeks in a row if you go back to 2024. So on the year, we're positive 4.89 units. And as you can see, the years prior, up over 100 units. The year prior to that, up nearly 45. So we're looking to continue to that total in 2025. If you want all my bets, I actually have 3 bets out already for UFC Saudi Arabia. I just put them out today. You can join the Home Fight Picks premium membership. There's a link down in the description below. Use the code HeyJive. It'll get you a 5-day free trial. But enough of that. Let's get into it with the first fight of the night. I'm going to give you my early lean, early pick for every single fight on this card. The first fight of the night, as of right now, is Abdulkarim Selwady taking on Balazs. And Balazs is taking this on somewhat short notice. So it's supposed to be Jordan Levitt, which kind of glad he pulled out because not as fun of a fight in my opinion. No hate to Jordan Levitt. I've met the guy in Las Vegas. He's a very interesting cat, I'll tell you that. But either way, Balazs coming off the embarrassing loss, honestly, to Chris Duncan, where he just stuck his head in a guillotine, went to sleep, and the ref didn't even notice. Chris Duncan had to pretty much tell the ref that he was sleeping, and it was just a bad look. Like, Balazs was spamming takedowns for some reason after having some success on the feet. Don't know what he was doing. So from there, you could tell the guy's pretty green. At least, maybe he's not green. Maybe he's just not all there in the head as when it comes to fight IQ. Abdulkarim had probably one of the most impressive Dana White Contender Series performances, considering he was a sizable underdog to this dude Hardwick, who was a complete fraud. Pieced him up from the outside, took him down when he wanted to, and then he comes in the UFC and loses to Loik Radzhabov. He was a favorite in that fight to Loik Radzhabov, and gets sparked in the 3rd round. It was a pretty close fight going into the 3rd, and they just get absolutely sparked. And that's been his problem throughout his career, is just getting sparked. You know, most of his losses, his 4 losses, come by KO. So the guy's a bit chinny. I mean, he's a decent striker on the feet. He's got a nice jab, moves his feet pretty well. Wrestling is okay. It's not like some dominant type of wrestling. I mean, he's just okay everywhere, with not a ton of power on the feet and a suspect chin. And I think Balazs is taking this fight like he thinks it's probably easy pickings. I think Oki is a much better athlete, I don't want to say stronger. He hits a lot harder, probably stronger in the clinch. And I think his cardio is okay. So I think he's got Abdulkarim Selwady outgunned in a lot of aspects. Now, it really just comes down to fight IQ. Is Balazs going to pull some dumb shit like he did his last time out? We'll see. But I think as a fighter, if I'm going to go into a fight, I want Balazs over Abdulkarim. I just think his ceiling is a lot higher. And the fact that he's taking this fight tells me that he thinks he could probably beat this guy 6, 7, 8 or 9 times out of 10. I think he should be a favorite here. I did look at the odds, and I was a little bit shocked. I'll just tell you that. So I will take Blachowicz for the pick here to come in here, swoop up a win, probably find another KO because the guy's hands are fast. He's a dynamic striker, and I think if he touches that chin of Selwady, Selwady's going to go to sleep. So give me Blachowicz to start the night. And we'll move on to Hamdi Abdelwahab. Wasn't sure if I was ever going to see that name ever again in my life. But here we are, taking on Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues, I've had my bad stuff to say about Jamal Pogues, but at his base, he is a decent fighter. And it's probably a better move that he went up to heavyweight because he was a light heavyweight for a while. It just wasn't cutting it out. And then he puts on the extra weight, just becomes morbidly obese, but finds some success at the heavyweight division because the heavyweights are bad. And he does have a little bit of athleticism to him. I don't even want to say it's athleticism. It's more just like a little bit of quickness, like fat guy quickness, where his jab is pretty solid. He has decent hips where he can stuff takedowns. And he can outstrike a lot of guys in the heavyweight division who are just very, very slow because he can snap the jab out there. Hamdi, the dude fought a long time, I don't want to say it was a long time, but 2-3 years ago against Don'Tale Mayes. He was an underdog. He went in there and beat Don'Tale Mayes by taking him down, just throwing sloppy combinations, overhands, and just making it dirty. And then he popped for a substance, and now here he is. He's 3-0 as a pro. He has a win in the UFC, but it's a no contest because he popped. I don't know what to do with this guy. I mean, he's not a very big guy. I mean, he's 6'2". He was going up against Don'Tale, who was 6'6", so I guess it makes it look smaller. But he's a decent wrestler. He's a solid wrestler, and I thought his cardio would look really bad against Don'Tale, and it didn't look too bad. There were times in that fight where Hamdi was getting pieced up, and I thought if Don'Tale Mayes had any type of killer instinct, he could have got him out of there. But he didn't, and he let him stay around and eventually won that fight. Coming in here, I want to know if he's still on the sauce. If he's on the sauce, then I think he's got a great chance to win this fight. If he doesn't, if he's not on the sauce anymore, I mean, they're in Saudi, so, maybe they want the Egyptian guy to win here, but juicing him up with stuff before the fight, we'll see. I am actually going to tend towards Hamdi Abdelwahab because I think his athleticism is good enough to match Jamal Pogues. Like, if he fights how he did against Don'Tale Mayes, he can win this fight. But if he's just willing to stand in front of Jamal Pogues, he's going to get his face jabbed off because that's really all Jamal Pogues does have. He's a snappy jab and a nice little 1-2. Other than that, not much. So I think Hamdi can throw those wild overhands. Jamal Pogues ain't going to be able to counter that with a jab, really, unless he's just so gassed out he can't get in on the inside. I think he should be able to win this fight. I think he can get takedowns and he can win this fight. So I'll take Hamdi Abdelwahab, the Egyptian dude, to win in Saudi Arabia over Jamal Pogues, an obese light heavyweight. So here we go. Moving on. Bogdan Grad taking on Lucas Alexander. I guess I said this fight card was good, and we're starting off pretty slow. But it'll get better. I trust me on that. Bogdan Grad won on the Contender Series. I was pretty confident he was going to go in there and beat Michael Aswell. Not for the fact that Michael Aswell is a bad fighter, but I liked what I saw from Bogdan Grad after that KO loss from Tom Nolan. Goes back to the regional scene, picks up a couple wins, looks great doing so, moves down to 145. That's his normal weight class, or at least it should be his weight class. The dude looks juiced to the gills, and I wasn't impressed against Michael Aswell. I was impressed with his heart, but I was not impressed with his skills. The guy is super hittable. He doesn't use his movement very well. There wasn't a ton of urgency from the guy. He was willing to just take shots and then throw a few back. Like, he was willing to eat 6 shots to land 2. That's a bad look if you're going to win fights at the UFC. Lucas Alexander, on the other hand, probably the worst performance, I don't want to say performance, the worst outcome that could have happened in 2024 was losing to Jeka Sergi. All right, you lose to Jeka Sergi in the UFC, there's not a lot that you can do to come back from that. But if you watch the fight, Lucas Alexander was piecing him up. and Jekka like caught a kick. Alexander was on the ground. He like rolled for a leg and then went back up to get to his feet. He got up to his feet, turned around, and then bang, there was a big right hand that knocked him out. So I just think that's kind of chalked up as like I don't want to say fluke knockout, but like he was clearly the better fighter. He got caught with something that he was not ready for. When I watched Lucas Alexander fight, I think he's a really solid striker. Long guy for the weight class, uses it pretty well. Solid jab, solid front kicks, leg kicks. I think if he goes into this fight with the game plan of keep him at range, pop the jab at him because Bogdan Grad doesn't move his head, stuff takedowns, he can win this fight on the feet easily. Like I think he's a much better striker than Bogdan Grad. Maybe doesn't hold the same amount of power, and maybe he's not as durable as Bogdan Grad, but we've seen Bogdan Grad knocked out brutally against Tom Nolan. So I really think Lucas Alexander has a solid chance to win this fight. I know Bogdan is the favorite right now, so I'm just going to lean with the underdog here at Lucas Alexander to get it done. I don't really think his record is indicative of his skill set. I think he has fumbled quite a bit in his time, but you know, there's always the day where the UFC debuter in Bogdan Grad comes in here and just doesn't look good, and I think that's probably a high possibility. So I'll take Lucas Alexander to get this one done as my early pick, but it is one that I definitely want to look at a little bit more and just kind of suss it out, but I do think Lucas as an underdog is a decent little look. Moving on. Jasudavicius taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. And after Jasmine's last fight, I think there's a lot of girls in this flyweight division that she would just ragdoll. And I'm looking at this fight as probably one of those. You know, I don't really think Mayra Bueno has solidified herself as like a true top 5 girl. Like she has had her wins. She had her nice little win streak. She got the win over Holly Holm with that ninja choke. Okay. And then she fights for a title and gets absolutely exposed by Raquel Pennington. And then her next fight against Macy Chasson. You know, she got cut with that elbow from the top. And that was just indicative of what's probably going to happen here. Like Mayra Bueno Silva, she doesn't really care to get taken down because she likes to play the jiu-jitsu game off her back. But if you're going to play the jiu-jitsu game off your back with Jasmine Jasudavicius, you better find something. Otherwise, you're going to get hit in the face with a bunch of elbows, with a bunch of punches. You're going to get grinded out. Your cardio is going to go to shit because her cardio is a lot better than yours. And she's just going to bully you. So I think that's probably what's going to happen here. I think Jasmine's probably going to be able to get takedowns on Bueno Silva. Bueno Silva is probably the better pure striker, but she doesn't really set up her shots. Like she's not really looking to find a shot to land big. She's more so you come at her and she's willing to slug it out, and she's got some decent combinations when that happens. Jasmine's going to pump her jab. She's going to look to throw you up against the cage. She's going to drag you down to the ground, and she's going to put you through hell. And I think that's probably what's going to happen here. She's probably going to be able to get takedowns on Bueno Silva. Bueno Silva's going to play the jiu-jitsu game off her back, and Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to punch her in the face, elbow her, and win a decision. So I'll take Jasmine Jasudavicius. If she can avoid getting submitted here, I think she wins. I'll take her, the Canadian, to continue the winning streak and get this one done in Saudi. Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Very interesting one here because Mike Davis, if you watch UFC, you know who Mike Davis is. But he's not really like a household name with, I don't want to say casual fans, but you know how good the guy is. Like he's extremely athletic, built like a brick shithouse, hits hard, solid takedowns, solid takedown defense, solid grappling, but he just doesn't fight that often, and he doesn't really get that great of matchups. He was supposed to fight Drew Dober. I was really looking forward to that fight. Didn't happen. But now he's taking on Ziam. And I'm looking at Ziam, I'm saying, I think Ziam could beat him. I really do. Because Mike Davis is a good striker, but he's also very hittable. And the fact that he's, I don't want to say he's constantly injured, but he just doesn't fight that often. And when he does get a fight booked, it seems like he's always pulling out. And his wins really aren't that great. So I think Ziam can do exactly what he did to Matt Frevola, and that's be longer, be sharper, be faster from the outside. Stick to your jab. These French kickboxers are so boring, but they're so effective. Like, they don't engage in these big brawls. They just stay to the outside, use great footwork, pump their jab, pump the leg kicks, pump the front kicks, stuff takedowns. I think Ziam's wrestling has gotten a lot better throughout the years, ever since that loss to McKinney where he got choked out. Talk about McKinney later. I don't think Mike Davis is going to have his way with far as Ziam. I think Ziam's going to be able to make this fight a little bit boring and find spots where he can just win at range and win by being sharper and a little bit more calculated. Mike Davis might be able to get in on the hips and get Ziam to the ground, but from what I've seen from Ziam, that ground game has really improved. And I like that he doesn't accept bottom position. When he gets taken down, he's not accepting it. He's working his way back up to the cage and getting back to where he wants to be. So I think Ziam can win this fight. He's the underdog. I'm going to take him for the early pick here. He is also, 5 years younger than Mike Davis. I like that. Been a lot more active. Got a lot of momentum. Big knockout his last time out. Let's do it. I'll take Ziam for the early pick. Moving on. Terrence McKinney taking on Damir Hadzovic. Where do I start with this? I mean, McKinney, I don't know what this guy's doing with his career. Like, what is he looking to do? Is it fight? Is he trying to be a Kevin Holland? Does he even have the abilities to be a Kevin Holland? Obviously, he's a great athlete. He's very dangerous in the first round. He's going to knock out a lot of these lower level guys, probably a Damir Hadzovic. But he still has no cardio. Still none. His chin is not very good. So he's a glass cannon out there with no cardio. So he's either got to finish you in the first round or he's toast. And he could also get finished in the first round by being too aggressive. Or maybe in his last fight, he wasn't really that aggressive, but he still got head kicked into oblivion. So Damir, old as shit, 38 years old, the Bosnian bomber, hasn't fought in forever. He's not a big lightweight, but he does have some power in his hands. He's not a great grappler. If I was McKinney, I would look to take Damir down and grapple him up. But does McKinney have the cardio to do that past round one? I don't know. Does he have the IQ to go that way? Probably not. So, yeah, man, I really think Terrence McKinney is always live for just an absolute stinker, and he's a minus 350 favorite here. Do I believe in Damir Hadzovic to get this one done? No. So I'm going to take Terrence McKinney for the early pick, but yeah. There was a time where Terrence McKinney was like this feared guy when he was on his nice little run, and then now he's just fallen off, and those 2 wins you see on your screen are to complete bumps. Like guys that took the fight, or he took the fight on short notice or whatever, like bumps. So, yeah, I probably would stay away from Terrence McKinney, but he'll be the early pick. Moving on. Shamil Gaziev. The man is back in action, baby. You gotta love it. Fighting in Saudi again. Last time he was in Saudi, he got a win over Dante Almeida. Now he's looking to take out Thomas the Train Petersen. Heavyweights are so brutal. Thomas Petersen, man. I don't know what to say about the guy other than he needs to... There's a lot that he could work on. Same with Shamil, but Thomas, he's an okay striker, like for the heavyweight division. Like he's okay. Wrestling is solid. It's better than most, but even against, Jamal Pogues, he really didn't have a lot of success. The fight against Usman was just brutal to watch. He won it, but it was brutal to watch. He finds ways to be effective, though. Like, I can't shit on him that much because he finds ways to be effective. He's 9-2. He's won 9 fights, so he's not that bad. But going into this one against Shamil, I feel like Thomas needs to probably come into this with, some really good conditioning and just try to wear down Shamil. Because Shamil's going to be dangerous in that first round. He has a nice right hand, somewhat. I'm really trying to be, complimentary of these two guys, but it's really tough because I say something nice and then I'm like, well, it's really not that good. He's got a decent right hand. He's got okay takedowns. And Shamil likes to be in the clinch. I think Shamil will probably try to push Thomas Petersen up into the cage, get a little bit dirty in there, throw some elbows, throw some knees, maybe drag him down to the ground and go to work from there. So Shamil's a big favorite here, minus 390. They say moderate favorite. I say that's somewhat big. I'm going to go with Shamil for the early pick, just because I think he is a little bit better than Thomas Petersen at this point. He's a last name that ends in V, fighting in Saudi Arabia. So if it goes to the scorecards, you know who they're gonna give it to. And I think Thomas, after fighting Mo Usman, it's just there's levels to this. All right, Shamil Gaziev, there's levels to this. Okay, Shamil Gaziev is the early pick. We'll move on. Before we get into the main card, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Oma Fight Picks premium membership once again. Use the code HeyJive. You get my all my bets for UFC Saudi. For however long you enter in. You can join for a week, you can join for a month. But you get all my bets for UFC Saudi. Use code HeyJive for a 5-day free trial. Those are the results from 2023, 2024, and 2025. Thus far, 2 out of 2 cards we have been profitable. And I have 3 bets already active on UFC Saudi. So jump in there, you get the bets, and you can cash some tickets. If you need a sports book, join Wager Attack. There's a link down in the description. It's available in all 50 states. I know a lot of you live in California. A lot of you live in Texas. And you can't access a FanDuel, a DraftKings, whatever. You can't access it because it's not technically legalized in your state. But Wager Attack is available to you in all 50 states. You get a 200% free play bonus, and you'll get a 10% cash bonus on crypto deposits. So if you need a sports book, you want to bet on money lines, props, over-unders, hop on Wager Attack, link down in the description below. Use the code HeyJive, and you'll get these bonuses. To the main card, we got Muhammad Naimov taking on Khan Ofli. And Khan did look awfully bad in his UFC debut. I guess it wasn't a debut, but it was the Ultimate Fighter finale. I had a bet on the guy, which was just probably one of the worst bets I placed last year. You know, I really thought Khan Ofli could be able to get takedowns on Santos, because I didn't think Santos had really been tested by a wrestler on the Ultimate Fighter. And Khan Ofli didn't really shoot takedowns. Didn't really shoot them, and then when he did, they were I don't want to say half-hearted takedowns, but they weren't confident because he wasn't having any success in the striking, and then he just got absolutely obliterated. So, going into this one against Muhammad Naimov, you got to wonder how the guy's confidence is, considering he got absolutely destroyed by Myron Santos on the Ultimate Fighter finale. So not even against, I guess technically now against another UFC fighter, but at the time it wasn't. But he's in the UFC. He's a dog here against Naimov, who Naimov got outworked by Felipe Lima his last time out and submitted in the third. Not really, I mean, we've always seen Naimov slow down in fights, but he's been able to fight through it and still pick up victories. And then in the last time out, he just gave up his neck, and that was it. So going into this one, I don't really think Naimov is anything too great. Like, he's got decent power in his hands, and I think he could probably touch that chin of Ofli and just shut the lights off. But if he doesn't, and he lets Ofli get into his game of taking guys down and working off from there, then it could be close, because I don't think Naimov has the best takedown defense. I don't think Naimov has, the best jiu-jitsu when the fight hits the ground, and that's more of Ofli's area of expertise, is getting the takedowns and working his jiu-jitsu on the ground. So if he allows that, this fight could be pretty close, but I don't know that he's going to be able to. I don't think Ofli showed any type of like thing to look forward to in the UFC in his last fight. So I'm going to go with Muhammad Naimov here. He's the better striker. I trust him to stuff at least 50% of his takedowns. If he does get taken down, if it's earlier in the fight, I don't think he's going to get submitted. And later in the fight, I don't think he's going to gas out like Felipe Lima made him do. So I'll take Muhammad Naimov, another OV in Saudi Arabia, to pick up a victory. And the Tajikistan crowd goes crazy. Just kidding. He trains in Denver, Colorado. So shout out the Tajiks. Moving on. Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. Andre Muniz is coming in here as a big underdog. And Ikram, coming off a big KO loss. Very interesting. Very interesting. I thought maybe Ikram would come into his next fight not as a very heavy favorite. And this isn't like an easy fight. I wouldn't say Andre Muniz is some bum at 185 that's like, anybody could roll through him. He's not Antonio Tricoli. So there's that. Ikram probably going to want to keep this fight on the feet. He's probably the better striker than Muniz. I don't want to say probably. He is the better striker than Muniz. But is Ikram really that great of a striker? I don't know. He's okay. He's got decent power in his hands. He's better than these low-level guys like a Warley Alves. But Muniz isn't like some awful striker. Like he can handle himself. It's going to be orthodox versus southpaw. Muniz is a southpaw. He'll rip some body kicks. It's just going to look a lot slower than Aliskerov. And if Muniz wants to win this fight, he's got to get it to the ground. If he does get it to the ground, he's probably not going to sub Ikram because Ikram's a solid grappler himself. But he could win rounds. He could win rounds, getting a takedown, winning on top, just like he did against Jun Young Park. So I'm not really counting out Muniz, especially with the current odds at plus 400. But if I was to make a pick, I would take Ikram. I think he probably does win the minutes on the feet, stuffs most of the takedowns, and wins the fight. Could definitely knock out Muniz as well, and Muniz has been knocked out many a time. So I will take Ikram Aliskerov to win this fight in Saudi Arabia. Another OV. We'll talk about the OVs later in the week, or I guess next week. Their success rate in Saudi and Abu Dhabi is just off the charts. So I'll take Ikram to win this fight, and we can move on to another OV. Said Nurmagomedov taking on Vinicius Lockdog Olivieira. Very interesting one to me. I really love this fight because Said is like a gatekeeper type to the top 15. He's not as great as his last name would indicate, even though we just saw last week with Umar. It's like last name doesn't always mean you're some invincible guy. He's obviously got 3 losses, Said does, but he is a very solid fighter overall. Lockdog, cashing as an underdog his first 2 fights in the UFC, and it was a pretty sizable underdog to Ricky Simón his last fight, and he looked pretty damn good. I think the only bad part about that fight for Vinicius was when he threw a leg kick and Ricky Simón checked it, and I thought for a second Vinicius was going to go down from getting a kick checked. Like he made it known that kick was checked, and it hurt him. So not a good look there, and that's kind of a problem with Vinicius, is he's willing to throw anything and everything, and when you're throwing that many leg kicks, and he kind of telegraphs them a little bit, they're not super fast because he winds up on them so much, and he throws so much power into them that, if you keep spamming leg kicks, they're going to check him eventually, and that's what happened. But he did win that fight pretty clearly as a big underdog. And how did he win it? He got taken down once or twice, got back up to his feet, and was just a better striker. Very big for the weight class, 5'9", 70-inch reach. Obviously, that kind of matches Said, but when he's going up against Ricky Simón, who's like 5'2", it's going to mean a lot. So Vinicius going into this one. Weird thing when I was watching this fight, I'm like, dude, this guy fights like Yuri Prohashka. Not the same, like, grind you out type of mentality, but like his movements, very similar to Yuri. Like he's very herky-jerky, like strikes come at weird angles. Like it's not normal. So I think that could throw off Said's timing a little bit, but that also leaves Vinicius open to a lot of stuff that he could get countered with big shots, and that's why he's been knocked out 3 times. He's been KO'd in all of his losses. So it could be a nice little Said Nurmagomedov spinning back fist, spinning wheel kick, spinning back kick type of knockout here if Vinicius Oliveira takes the L. But if he doesn't, obviously, you're going up against Said, you got to watch out for that ninja choke. It's probably the nastiest in the game. Vinicius, not really a guy that's going to be shooting a lot of takedowns, though, so that's probably out of the picture. Unless he gets hurt with something and shoots a sloppy takedown and gets guillotine choked. You never know. Man, these fighters are weird. But on the feet, I think Vinicius could give Said some problems. Because if you watch Said versus Jonathan Martinez, Said was not liking those leg kicks. And Vinicius loves to throw those leg kicks. He's going to be very weird, very awkward. Said's probably going to have trouble with the timing. And Vinicius could have a lot of success on the feet. He showed decent cardio, in his debut and his last fight against Simón. And Said does tend to slow down as the fight goes on. He's a guy that uses a lot of quick fast footwork, a lot of explosive movements on the feet as well. Early on in the fight, he looks very sharp, but as the fight goes on, it starts to slow down, gets a little bit sloppy, and it gets a lot more hittable. So I think this is a very close fight. I think it's a very close fight, but I am going to side with Said Nurmagomedov just based on the fact that he does have very solid wrestling when he needs to use it. He just doesn't always use it. And I think this is a fight where he's going to have to use it. I think he can be able to match the striking early on in the fight, but then later in the fight, if he gets tired and he starts to get touched up, he could probably get takedowns on Vinicius. So I'm going to go with Said to win this fight. Very long-winded breakdown, but I thought this was a fight that warranted a longer breakdown. I'll take Said. Moving on. Sergey Pavlovich taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I like the fight because I want to see the old Pavlovich, man. I want to see old Pav in there just slugging it out. And I think this is a decent dance partner for that to happen. I think Rozenstruik has come a long way in his, I don't want to say in his career, but over the past few years. There's times where he looks a little bit gun-shy, pretty low volume. But his last couple fights, he's looked solid, man. He's popping the jab out there, looking sharp with it, solid leg kicks, but you got to take in the level of competition, and that was Shamil Gaziev and Taitu Ivasa. Two fat dudes who get hit pretty often. And Pavlovich, a lot faster, a lot longer, and I would probably say not as hittable, but, you know, Volkov did just piece him up. Volkov, very different of a fighter than Jairzinho, but I think Pavlovich just got to go in there. If he has confidence left, he's just got to go in there swinging, man. Throw those jabs. You're going to be a lot longer. Throw that right hook. Throw that left hook. Just get in on the chin of Jairzinho because Jairzinho doesn't like the pressure. Jairzinho can get into his slow kickboxing battle. He likes that. But once you bring that pressure, he don't like that. You get in on this inside and Pavlovich is throwing those hooks. Oh, God. Jairzinho's going to fold. So I thought I'll take Pavlovich here. I think he comes into this one. Volkov should have beat Cyril Gane. Tom Aspinall, best heavyweight in the world, don't at me. So those are his last two losses. You can't get too down on the guy. I think he's going to come in here and probably knock out Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So give me Pavlovich to win this one and get back on the train. Big Pav getting it done in Saudi. Let's do it. Co-main event, as I said earlier, probably one of my favorite fights to open up the year. Magomedov taking on Michael Venom Page. MVP moving up to 185. I love it. I love it because at 170, he's already taken his loss. It was to Ian Gary. Ian Gary was just in the title eliminator. And Michael Venom Page, arguably, I don't want to say arguably, he probably lost that fight, but he had his moments to win that fight. Moving up to 185, I just think this is a great fight for him because he's not going to have to deal with any grappling. Knock on wood. Like, if Magomedov starts shooting takedowns, this is not good. But hopefully this fight stays on the feet for the entirety of it. And if that is the case, I got to go with MVP, bro. I got to go with MVP. I think MVP is just such a mindfuck to anybody when they're in the striking. Nobody knows how to deal with it. They just don't. Like, Ian Gary had the perfect game plan of how to deal with it in the first round. And then Michael Venom Page made some adjustments in the round two, and MVP looked great in round two. And then round three, we all know what happened. But I think on the feet, he's just a mindfuck to any of these strikers. And Shara is a guy that has had a lot of favorable matchups in the UFC against strikers who he's probably just better than. He's a very good striker himself, but they're very different. MVP is a guy that's not going to let you touch him, and when he touches you, you're going to feel it. Shara is a guy that just throws a lot of volume, throws a lot of kicks, he's decent with his hands. Obviously, that double spinning back fist KO was crazy, but I don't think he's going to be able to have that type of success where he can feel out his opponent and then start to work on him a little bit more like he does in a lot of his fights. MVP, though, he's going to be bouncing from the outside. He's going to be blitzing Shara. I don't think Shara has faced any type of striker like MVP. There's not any type of striker like MVP. You could maybe say Wonderboy Thompson, but even then, they're kind of a little bit different. I think MVP is probably going to mindfuck him and win. So I'll take MVP to win this one. I don't like his age, obviously, and at 185, he's not, probably he's not going to be as big as he was at 170, but he is a lot longer than Shara. Shara's got those T-Rex arms. Come on now. Give me MVP to get this one done. Moving on to the co-main event, Israel Adesanya taking on Nasruddin Imavov. I'm not super excited for this matchup, but I am interested to see how it plays out. Because obviously Izzy coming off the title loss to DDP. That's 2 losses in a row. He's 1-3 in his last 4. Not a great look. He's not a lot of momentum coming into this one. And Nasruddin's got a lot of momentum. He should be 4-0 in his last 4. That was a win over Chris Curtis. He was piecing him up. I guess there was a headbutt, but what else was going to change in that one? Nasruddin was piecing him up. And then he gets a win, or 3 straight wins, and I think he's got a lot of momentum coming in here, and I think he can match Izzy stylistically pretty well. It just comes down to how does his cardio hold up? Is he going to mix in the wrestling? If he can mix in some type of wrestling throughout this fight, then I like him even more. But then it also questions, if he does mix in the offensive wrestling, does his cardio hold up? It's a big question. So there's a lot of question marks for me in this one, because I think Nasruddin is maybe a little bit quicker than Izzy. He's obviously not as big, not as long as Izzy, and I think Izzy's going to have a lot of success at range, touching him with kicks to the body, a long jab. I think his jab looked really good against DDP. I thought his boxing in general looked really good against DDP. And I just don't know that Nasruddin's going to be there to be hit like DDP was. DDP's a guy that'll stand in front of you. He'll be in and out, but he'll stand in front of you, and he's willing to engage in those scenarios. He's willing to shell up, take a few, look to level change. I think Imavov's a lot more fleet of foot. I think he's a little bit faster than DDP. They're very different fighters. I think Nasruddin can give Izzy a good run here, and then just because he's coming in with more momentum, Izzy is gonna have to prove something here. I don't know if he's at the point in his career where he is going to prove something. He's made a lot of money throughout his career. He's had all those title fights, and now he's fighting on a fight night main event in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. It's a very weird setting for Izzy. Maybe it's the setting that he needs, but right now I'm tending to lean towards Nasruddin Imavov. We'll see. We'll see. It's a very weird one for me. I don't know if I'll bet on it, but I think Imavov can win this fight. I'll take him for the early pick. This video is getting out to you a lot earlier than normal. The official picks will be posted later in the week, Wednesday on Fight Week, and I'll post the best bets video for you on Thursday. And then, if you didn't notice, UFC 311, we had the UFC Roulette live stream, which was a complete success with Matty Betts. We're definitely going to be doing that from now on. It's a great time. If you weren't there, go watch the last one. Super fun. We get to call in guys to come in on the show. You give us your long shots. We'll chop it up with you. We'll talk about them. It'll be fun. So we're definitely going to continue to do that. Look out for that for UFC Saudi. Should be a good time. Appreciate you for watching. Like and subscribe for me. Till next time. Hey, Job Picks.